It is exactly 7 o'clock, and I'm going to call this meeting to order. What we have here is the zoning board of appeals for the village of Webster. It looks like we have a full attendance of the members as well as our 2 alternates. So I'm going to do a here or not, start just
Larry Hall here.
Thank you, Larry.
Get the bills.
Mark Nicholson, Christopher Craywick, Michael O'Connor. Thank you. That's all 5 members. Anything that happens here tonight will require a majority if we take a decision on it. The majority in that board is 3. The majority would be 3, regardless of whether we had 5 here or not. But we do. All right, so what I'm going to do is we took attendance. I'm going to start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us if you would like to. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, right now, tonight, we have 3 items on our agenda. I will read them off, and then we will start with the first one. The process goes just like this. After I've read the first one, I'm going to ask whoever is representing that group to come up to the stand. Just tell us your name, tell us your representation, and then tell us what it is you'd like to do or what you're planning to do. After that, in each one of these sessions, we will allow the members of the board to ask you any questions. When that's done and you're done with your presentation, then what we'll do is we'll ask you to take a seat. Then we will invite anyone from the general public who has comments for or against it. They are at that point given the opportunity to make those. At that point, I will close it right after that, at least that discussion. When that's done, then we will have a meeting here, or we will have a vote by the board, and we will make a decision. If there are 2 to be made, and we can make them both here tonight, we will. We may ask you some questions about your zoning that you would like to have. Really what we're after is, one of the things is the state requires us to look and make sure that there is no significant environmental impact. It's what they call seeker. And what we're gonna do is we have a list of things that we don't allow right away. We make them go through a more detailed process, or if it's what we call a type 2, which is where I think these usually end up, then we will just call it a type 2 and we'll move on with that. All right, so, and then at the end, what we do is we have some business here. You can leave right at the end of your presentation. We'll tell you where it's going. Then we've got some information here for the board and some information that the board is going to share among itself. It's going to be like, what do we do with this in the future? Should we see if law needs to be changed? We don't have the power to change that law, but we can make recommendations to the village trustees who might like to do that. We also have some administrative things. Looks like there's going to be another option for attendance by the board members at these meetings. Looks like they can pretty soon. Well, we'll have some more information on that. All right. As we have no comments, I'm going to read the first item on our agenda. Mr. Richard Mayer, the owner of 15 Clover Drive, having a tax ID and as is listed. The applicant seeks to attach a covered front porch pursuant to the Village Code 175-11C. The required front back setback in that area is 40 feet. What that means is you got to be 40 feet from the measuring point back to the top. Looks like this one, the applicant proposes to build a front porch with a setback, which will end up being 35.1 feet. What that means is he needs 4.9 feet of a variance. And is Mr. Murray here? Here. Come on up. Tell us who you are. Tell us where you live, even though it's probably right there at 15. and then tell us what it is you want to do.
My name is Richard Murray. I'm at 15 Clover Drive. I'm the owner. And we're looking to put a porch addition on the front of the house. There's some old steps there that we want to get rid of, and we came up with this plan to put a porch on the front of the house. And that's what we're looking for the variance for.
Tell us about the porch that you're going to put on.
The porch is going to be this is a contractor right here, Gates Forensic. You can help me with it. It's a 12 by 6 foot porch. It's going to be covered. It's going to be a composite deck, and then it's going to be covered. So it's going to
That's
be,
going to come right off the roof?
Right off
It's
the-
going to be an extension of the roof?
yes.
It'd be more of a dormer lay-on.
Okay.
On the front of it, so it'd be a gabled end facing the road. With columns coming down, rails, steps going up to it, composite decking, white railings.
Okay.
The roofing will match the house, everything will tie in.
Thank you. That was where I was going next.
Yeah.
One of the things that we like to have here is we like to have that the roof and or the materials are similar to the house.
It's all gonna fascia, soffits, gutters, everything's all gonna flow exactly with the home.
And 35.1 feet from the measuring point in the road or the gutter.
Yes.
All right. Questions from anybody on the board?
Electricals, just anything. Electrical,
Electrical, there would be a couple like can lights in the porch ceiling shining down. There's an existing
I can see it.
coach light right now, but instead of having that next
Tap
to,
into that.
yeah, we'll tap into that, correct, exactly. Yep.
I got questions. Who drew that?
My kid?
The contractor?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the problem?
12-foot wide porch.
Sure.
According to this, you got your joist 24 inches on center?
It's not the scale. Nothing out, and I never said it was a scale, nor did I indicate it was the scale.
Okay.
It's just,
Yeah,
it's a representation for, you know what I mean, for,
I'm a very literal guy. I take what I got literally.
sure.
All right.
Don't take things literally, not in this world.
Okay. Because composite 16 on center minimums, preferably 12. They they say 16.
You could do your research on me. I don't cut corners.
Oh, I'm in the business, so I know. Are your porch posts continuous from your sonotube to the roof?
Correct.
Okay. Not a big fan of the way you're proposing to attach your rims to the posts. You're relying on the shear strength of the bolts.
Correct, but there's
And
also.
with fasteners, I
there's-
would prefer, from a structural point of view, that the carrying load be, the rims be let into the posts.
Yeah, but then you're making a double notch, because then there's gonna be a notch up at the top for the header.
Understood? Or
But you're talking about a 6-foot pole, a 6-foot wide porch. There's gonna be almost no bearing weight on that. You know what I mean?
nevertheless, you're still relying too much on the shear strength of the,
But it's code, and we can use that, and that's the manner that I'm gonna use.
yeah, I know code is code, but, okay, at the end of the day.
I've been doing it long enough, I know.
I know.
Okay.
Other questions, Mike?
I'm outside.
Over here? I'm good. Okay, very good. Thank you very much. What I want to do right now is invite anyone from the general public to speak for or against it. Do the same thing, just tell us who you are and tell us your point of view. And what the record will show is that no one chose to do that, so we'll close that portion down. Is this a type 2?
It's a type 2 action under secret, yes.
So can do we get a motion, says this is a type 2?
I'll make that motion.
We've got a motion, seconded,
Second,
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right, so we're in type 2. All right, then what we're looking for then is a 4.9 foot setback variance for the setback portion of the front of the porch.
I will make that motion for a positive recommendation to grant a 4.9-foot setback variance off the front of the porch.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve it. All those in favor?
I'll second the motion.
Yes.
Seconded, thank you. So we got a second and we got all in favor. Aye.
All right,
Aye? Okay, very good. Your variance is granted. Good luck with the porch.
Thank you.
All right. Second one listed on our agenda is a Mr. Martin Capteen. I don't know if he's here or not, but he's the owner of 3 West Main
I use
Street.
them all the time.
That's out here. I'm not gonna read the tax number. The applicant is seeking preliminary and final site plan approval for the change of use of the first floor from mercantile occupancy classification to a business occupancy classification pursuant to Village Code 17522B and 17540B. The applicant also seeks a variance for the parking spaces where there is a number, where the number of parking spaces is 1 for each 300 square feet, roughly 8 spaces for this particular place. They have none. We're aware of that. Pursuant to Village Code 17553B, 0 spaces are provided. The property is zoned central business. It's actually right on the corner of South Avenue and Main Street.
North Avenue.
North Avenue, well, okay.
So I am Paul Capteen, I am Martin Capteen's brother. Martin couldn't attend the meeting tonight, so I'm here in place of him. So I'm not as knowledgeable as he is about it. I think, Chris, you're very familiar with the project and have been on site, is my understanding. So the building we're talking about is in the picture behind you at the corner. And interestingly, there's a bakery just a few houses down from that, I would note. The renters of the space, the business owners, Igor and Oksana, are here also and can answer any questions about the space. The space had been occupied by the bridal shop, which had moved out. So now this would be a small bakery with seating for 20, I believe. And it doesn't really increase the footprint of the current retail space that's there now in terms of drainage or power use or anything other than that parking spot variance that you described, Mark. So do you have any questions and any other information? I believe everyone has a copy of this packet, correct?
We do.
Okay, do you have any questions that I can answer?
We're open for questions from anybody on the board.
Well, I have a question. You're not going to be baking there at the bakery?
We're gonna be baking.
Pardon?
Yes, we're gonna be baking here.
Okay. So doesn't that change it from whatever it was, mercantile to a business occupancy? Wouldn't it be considered a restaurant or cafe or?
No, because they're under 50 people, it's still a business occupancy.
Okay. All right.
They will have an oven on site, but it's a small convection oven that doesn't require any additional exhaust.
And you got an occupancy of,
I'm pretty sure it's seating for 20. I don't
It's
know.
less than that.
Is it more than that?
Oh, less.
I'm sorry, do you know?
It's about 10, 15 maybe.
I think he has written in this plan
Right.
20, but apparently the traffic will probably be much lighter than that. But
well, that makes more sense to me, the 10 or 15, put 20 people in there and
I know.
tables
it's,
would be a lot.
yeah, it's just a max number. I think that if your full seating would be 20, I think he has here reported somewhere.
Yes, it says here, seating for 20 people.
Seating for 20 people, thank you.
So you won't be, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
You won't be frying like donuts or anything
No.
like that, strictly oven?
Just simply oven, and it's gonna be a convection oven.
So you don't need an exhaust?
Yeah. It's like a small bakery, not like frying or grilling or something like that.
Okay. don't know, maybe.
Fire or,
Electrical convection.
no, what I was getting at is, you're gonna put 10 or 15 people into a building which doesn't typically have them in it right now. Do you have to upgrade, or are you going to upgrade the fire evacuation system or anything like that? Or does one exist, is there gonna be an inspection, is really what I'm asking.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're gonna do everything we gotta do for both, but
Okay.
they don't have to upgrade any of the egress problems that existing building.
Okay, and do you think the fire extinguisher system or the overhead system is probably there and
I don't
sufficient?
believe there is, sprinklers, but they will have the required extinguisher.
Have you visited the site already? Because when I went there, Marty gave me a walkthrough,
Yep.
and he pointed out a fire extinguisher and some
Yeah,
detection device on the ceiling.
The fire marshal and I walked through it already with them, yeah.
Okay.
They don't need an ansel system or anything?
No, it's just a convection of it.
And so whatever the number of fire extinguishers for that square footage or that total occupancy will be there?
Yep.
Perfect. Other questions from members on the board?
I have one other question. Now, that building has parking in the back.
It does.
Marty owns that entire building. Would that eliminate the need for a variance for parking?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Oh, come on, I thought you knew everything.
No. I'm just wondering.
Marty had explained to me that most of the traffic, and I think Oksana and Igor would say the same, they're expecting traffic to be early in the day and the midday, where most of the parking fills up after 3 p.m.
And I guess more out of curiosity, what are your hours gonna be?
Maybe from 7 to 3 p.m.
The 3?
Yeah.
7 to 3?
Yeah.
And what kind of goodies are you gonna be making?
We're gonna bake cookies, brownies, buns, maybe some Ukrainian dessert because I'm from Ukraine. Yeah.
It'd be nice to have a bakery in the village again.
What's your planned date to start, if you were to start?
Maybe next month.
Yeah, in a month or so, yeah.
About 30 days is what I'm hearing. Okay.
Chris, has signage been dealt with here?
I don't remember if there's a sign application or not, but if they need it, we'll take care of it.
We don't have it, so
Yeah.
There's a
I
picture.
don't think there'd be a variance for it.
if they're gonna put the same type up in front of it, or stencils on the windows.
5 minutes.
Yeah, they may have applied for, permit. I'd have to go back and check.
Fair enough.
That's for signage, is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, sir.
Is your picture accurate of what the signage might look like?
Probably not.
Probably not, okay. Except in the top, you'll probably have
Yeah,
this at
yeah,
the top.
yeah.
Is that where you're meaning, at the very top? Like not in the windows, but on the label of the structure? Okay.
This
More questions,
This
Larry?
board's not dealing with the signs. Yeah, I know. So,
Right.
yeah, so don't worry about it. And as far as the parking, I gotta know where I'm going though, you know, how I get there. You got 30 days before they run. But, I believe Mr. Captain doesn't own any of the parking lot right behind the building. That portion of the parking lot is actually owned by the village in conjunction with the Veterans Park.
Okay, yeah, right.
And then farther west, Coach owns most of the parking lot. But in any event, the whole park is leased to the village for public parking.
So a variance would be needed for parking.
Well, it's not, it's more of a, not really a variance, but a finding that there's sufficient off-street parking such that the parking requirement is waiting. In the past, as you'll see in your papers, the business in the basement got a variance for 3 parking spaces, but it's a smaller square footage than upstairs.
Other questions from members of the board?
No.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, so then the next step would be, we're just waiting for approval, which happens later?
Let me tell you what's gonna happen.
Okay, thank you.
We're gonna close you down. And we're gonna ask if anybody from the general public would like to speak for or against it.
Okay.
We give the general public that opportunity to
Okay.
speak for or against it. They will or they won't, they'll
Okay.
sit back down, then I'll close that portion. Then what we will do is I will seek motions from people on the board. And the way I see it, we've got at least 2 variances here. We've got a final site approval and then the parking.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, right now, anybody from general public want to speak for or against this? We're given the opportunity.
Samples when we open?
Are you the deciding member?
No.
Then
Can
not.
I have coffee in there?
Coffee?
Yes.
All right.
All right,
Start cooking.
so we've closed that portion. No one from the general public wanted to speak for or against it. So we can do this, and I would do this as 2 variances. I probably would do it. And one is the allowance of parking being at 0. So we look for a motion on that.
Well, the first thing you have to do is seeker.
All right, seeker,
And it's a type 2 because it's simply
Very little impact.
reconstruction of an existing structure.
all right. We get a motion
Make
for
a
type
motion
2.
for type 2 action under seeker with no significant environmental impact.
All right, we've got a motion, seconded.
I'll second.
Seconded by Michael, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right, we've done that, we did that portion. Now, moving on to, once we've done the Syker thing, again, back to the spaces, the applicant seeks a variance for parking spaces where the number of spaces required is 1 for each 300 square feet. However, in this case, there will be 0, and that's what we're going to go for.
Yes, I will make that motion for positive recommendation for issuance of variance for parking space requirements for the revised change of use, whereas 8 spaces are required but none are directly provided or available.
Okay, we have a motion on the table to approve that with 0 spaces.
Second?
Seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None. We've got the first one. All right, second one is, we know what type of seeker it is. What we're looking for is they're looking for a primary and a final site plan approval for the change of use on the first floor from mercantile occupancy certification to business certification, and recognize they may come at a later date or may not with a sign issue, but we're not dealing with that right now. So we got anyone who wants to make a
I'll
motion?
make that motion.
Michael makes the motion. The motion is?
That allow the change from a mercantile occupancy classification to a business occupancy classification.
Okay, we have a
On the
motion on the
first
table.
floor. Yes.
Seconded?
Second?
Seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Congratulations.
So implied in that motion was you granted preliminary and final site plan?
That was what I
approval?
said in the beginning, was that we were
Actually
looking
what-
for preliminary and final approval.
That's actually what the action, what they were seeking.
Rephrase.
Rephrase. Just so the minutes reflect that you granted preliminary and final site plan approval.
make that motion.
A last question, Oksana had suggested 30 days. Are they bound to 30 days?
You are not. That was a question that I asked of the potential owners or operators. That was just a curiosity question. It did not have a regulatory requirement associated with it.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much.
I think the
Yeah,
approvals,
good luck.
no, but this board's approvals, it's either 6 months or a year to wait for. One or the other. I can't remember off the top of my head.
It's 1 year, and they usually have to take some action on the variance within 1 year. Okay, third and final motion that we've got here is a Corey, and I may pronounce this wrong, but I'm going to say Feldbauer.
Yep.
All right, Corey, the owner of 166 Stanford Street for the second month in a row. I didn't say it. But anyhow, at that tax number, the applicant is seeking to install a fence on the property line higher than what's allowed. What's the maximum back there is going to be 6 feet. What they want to build is an 8-foot. The neighbor on the opposite side is the fire department, and that's where the fence is going. Tell us who you are, what you're trying to do.
Alright, my name is Corey Feldbauer. I'm the owner at 166 Sanford Street. We are looking to install a fence not only on that side of the property, but to enclose the whole backyard. So that'll be the south, east, and west end of the property. The 8-foot variance, we're looking in particular on that side up against the fireman's department, which would be on the west side. And we would also be seeking, if allowable, on the south side as well. The property behind us is approximately 3 foot above grade from our property. So a 6-foot fence then turns into a 3-foot fence when put on our property line on the south. So we're looking entirely for an 8-foot variance to be, I guess, negotiated or discussed further.
Okay, tell me again then what you want to do. You want to put an 8-foot fence up all the way around the backyard on 3 sides?
Up to an 8-foot, yes.
Up to an 8-foot.
Correct. We're not as much concerned with the east side of the property, but just, I guess, for consistency, we would be unsure if it would be kind of weird if we had a 6-foot fence on that side.
Is that the side that faces your neighbor, or?
Yes, yep, and it's the side that would face Sherwood as well. So I don't know if that would be an issue, having just a difference in height.
What happens, and this is a curiosity question for our legal group, what happens if we were to grant a variance for a fence in the backyard to be 8 feet high, but they only installed one side of it at 8 foot, the other sides were done at 6? I think that after a year, if we haven't taken that action, it goes away for the other sides, but I don't know whether we have to take an action on that.
Well, I think 6 foot's allowed.
Correct.
6 foot is allowed without a variance, so if they wanted to put the 6-foot fence, they could do that.
But, all right, and I understand that, but what was just requested to me was an 8-foot variance for the entire fence all the way around. If they only put it on the west side, then in 1 year, if they don't take an action, typically the variance goes away.
Well, you're right.
And then you would be.
You would assume if they're, are you installing the fence yourself?
No, but we do have work scheduled for the
So
week
you
of
would
the
think if they're gonna have
21st.
somebody install a fence, they're gonna do the whole fence and not just one side of it and then come back.
No,
and
that's
do it later.
fine, but what I heard from him say was that he was going to do one side and he wanted an option on the other sides.
So I assume that seeking approval for 8 foot for the entirety of the backyard would be the right action to do. And then if it was not allowable, at least we would know. So it would give us the option to do 8 foot on the east side, depending on how that might look.
And is that what you would prefer? To have all 3 sides 8 feet?
I would discuss with the contractor to see kind of how that would look, if it would look funny. Kind of looking, I guess, for recommendations for you guys as well, if you think that might look just unreasonable.
So you're 8 foot on the, let's talk about the west side of the fireman
Yes.
building side.
Yep.
And your justification for 8 foot was because of the field days and people coming in? or
Yeah,
moving
just a
around?
lot of strangers, a lot of traffic in and out.
Okay.
I do have an 8-year-old son, so it's kind of privacy. and
Totally
safety.
understand that.
Absolutely.
That 8 foot, is it gonna break the plane in the front of the house? Because there's a chain link fence there now. I assume that the fire department put that in there.
Yes.
So, are you stopping the fence at the front plane of your house? Or are you going all the way to the street like the site?
No. So it's gonna go to the rear corner of our garage.
Okay, and because you have a huge bush there, that offers you you have some cedar trees that someone has planted there now.
Yeah, I planted the arborvitae.
Okay, and I love it. I like when they speak the botanical terms, the tree of life, I got it. So, I'm assuming you're putting your fence between the arborvitae and the cyclone fence?
Correct.
The current cyclone
Yeah,
fence.
and I guess to be clear, just so you guys know, the chain link fence currently is about 12 feet off of my property line. The fire department does own 10 to 12 feet off of that encroaching, and I would call it my yard, but it's maintained by me, but owned by the fire department.
So this fence isn't gonna cause you trouble with that, is it?
No, I actually attended the fire department board meeting and discussed, I'm gonna maintain that space in between, just because it is a nice buffer between all the events. that
And you're
happen.
putting this wood fence that I see on what you gave us? You know, I would tell you personally, I would prefer that you didn't put an 8-foot fence in the back and on the east side of that.
Okay.
I think it starts looking like a castle mentality. And I understand you're building the castle on your flank there.
Yeah.
Because it's being encroached by the moms. I get that. And, but your justification in the back was because of the grades?
Yeah, it's approximately 3 foot higher on their property
Okay.
than mine, so there would really be, I guess, minimal privacy on the south end of our neighbor.
Okay, and then their fence that they have up is within just doing their backyard, but not their land, their total land?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Because there's a surveyor's mark here in one of your drawings that you gave?
Yeah, I had the property surveyed.
Okay, and that's basically where the telephone or the electrical pole is?
It kind of comes at an angle, so from the pole to the center of the hill, it kind of angles down.
And so then the fence on the, just so I get my eyes, the fence on the west side, the fence on the east side is behind the new shed that you put in?
Correct, yep.
And that's coming how far for? Same distance, about?
Yeah, it would be pretty much equal to where it would be coming off the back of the garage. It's about 100 feet from the back corners on both sides.
Yeah, you have a deep yard. Thank you. Yeah, appreciate that.
Corey, have you talked to Sue and Lee about the fence?
I have, and Sue is actually planning on coming here today, just in support.
Would she wouldn't mind
No,
you
she
get an
doesn't.
8-foot fence back there?
Correct.
You're gonna put a gate on it?
There will be 2 gates, one at the front by the garage, and actually one near the rear, so I can maintain that strip in between the fire department and mine. Because there are that big bushes that I'd like to keep there,
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
so I need access.
Okay, you mentioned there was an elevation change in the back of the yard there.
Yep.
Which is why you might not, so if you went, the fence on the east side is gonna be 8 feet high. What you were gonna try and do,
West side.
or excuse me, west side, yes, 104 west goes to Buffalo. You were gonna, the top was gonna be about the same, that's why you would change the back. So in other words, if it were 8 feet and there was an elevation back here and it was all 8 feet, now all of a sudden that would be high. You were saying you wanted to bring them level.
Yes, but the main reason is because the elevation is about 3 feet higher, the south property of me.
Got it.
So I bought a 6-foot panel and I held it up and I had my wife stand on top of the hill and it doesn't do anything. Yeah. So
Got it.
that's the request for the south end. And then really the east end, is more, if it's gonna look funny having a 6 foot there, which it might not, because there is a little bit of an elevation change coming down. I'm totally fine with having to do a 6 foot on that side, but if it would be more consistent, we can do an 8.
I think that would be my preference, is if we did a 6 on the east side, because looking from Sherwood towards the fireman's field would be more of a normal type of scenario where you got the 6 foot fence. I could see where providing the 8 foot fence on Sue and Lee's side, because of the grade change,
Yeah.
it would actually look maybe like a 6 foot high fence rather in reality. And I definitely agree with the fireman's field, because I back up to the fireman's field. I'd love to put up an 8 foot fence in my backyard, so. That's my.
You know some people that can make that.
Yeah.
Okay, other questions by anyone from the board? Okay, thank you very much. Unless you have other questions for us?
No?
Okay, anybody from the general public want to speak for or against this? Go.
Richard Walter, 20 Elm Street, as you all know very well by now. My only question is, I believe the fence on the fire department side, our code says that a fence has to drop down in height as it comes farther from the house out to the road.
Yeah, he's staying in the back.
But he's staying behind that.
Yeah.
The road, this fence is gonna end at your house?
At the back corner of the house.
Back rear of the garage.
It's gonna end at the house?
Yep.
So it will not extend all the way out to the sidewalk?
Correct.
Okay, and I just wanted to clarify, thank you.
Yep.
It would be nice if it could be.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree with that.
Okay, anyone got other questions for? You have any questions for us?
No, I didn't.
Very good, thank you very much. All right, so before we go any farther, it is a fence that goes up to 8 feet, at least on the side. I suspect very strongly that that's a type 2 seeker issue without significant environmental issues.
Yeah, any area variance on residential property is a type 2 action.
Fair enough, so we got a motion. Do we have a motion that it's a type 2?
I'll make that motion that it's a type 2 pursuant to seeker.
Thank you, Michael. Seconded?
I'll second.
All right, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. So we're at type 2. We don't have to do that. Now what I'm looking for, go ahead, Art.
Mike, can you put in wordage that you said before about having it 6 foot on the east side and 8 and 8?
Well, but this, I guess that's a discussion item that we had. That's my thought, is at least from the perspective of trying to provide the most privacy to Corey and his family and not be a significant impact, I guess, to the neighborhood, because most neighborhood fences are probably either 4 feet or 6 feet. When you drive down Sherwood Avenue, it would look more like a residential type of fence.
What I'm saying is I totally agree with that. That would be something that I would vote for.
Okay.
I'm a little hesitant not to vote for that. And you explained yourself extremely well, and I understand what you're doing, but it's just me, baby.
I mean,
I like
it's more up if Corey's willing to, we're proposing that scenario that you got at least 2 members that might vote for that. If that's something that you're willing to maybe live with, then we could possibly take a vote on that. Or if you feel like you want to.
So I have some candy here, not that I'm trying to.
What we have in front of us is a request for an 8-foot fence.
Right, but he was open to, because 2 or 6 foot is allowed by code. So he needs a 2-foot variance by.
For a very limited portion.
For a limited portion. And I don't know,
I
I've never done an 8-foot fence in the village, so I didn't think we've done any.
There was one behind Webster House.
No.
Yeah.
And again, that backs up to
That backs up to
highly
residential.
commercial.
Right.
So, this is a question I'm going to defer off to the legal group. Can we take something that hasn't been public noticed and change this here at this meeting? Or do we only have the ability to deal with what's been presented? And by that, I mean an 8-foot variance.
If the applicant wants to withdraw his application for an 8-foot fence on the east side of the property, he can do that. You can still act on what's left, which is the west side and the south side.
Okay.
He can put up a 6-foot fence without, with just getting a permit, doesn't need the board approval.
Sounds good.
How do you feel about that?
I am absolutely okay with that.
You're all right with it?
Yeah.
So we don't deal with then the south, and we don't deal with the east, because
No, we
6
do.
foot is allowed.
No, he's
No,
gonna do 8 feet on the south and the west. He's not gonna do 8 feet on the east
Yeah,
side.
the variance would be to allow an
8 foot on
8-foot
the west,
tall
8 foot on the
fence on the south
6 foot on the
and
east.
west property lines.
And you understand that?
Yes. Yep.
8 on the west,
8 on the
8 on the
south.
south, 6 on the east.
Correct.
Right, all right, so it's 8 on the west, 8 in the back,
Yeah.
and 6 on the east side, which is the side that faces out this way.
The neighbors.
You could even swoop that up there, a nice gentle curve.
Yeah,
Wouldn't even notice.
you wouldn't even know, right?
Does not cause you any harm or otherwise problem if we change the variance.
It saved me about $2,500. So thank you.
There you go, that's a good reason.
That's a darn good reason, yes, okay. So what we've got is, Mike, if you want to go forward with it,
Well, I guess I'll make the motion that a positive recommendation for a 2-foot high variance for the west side and the south side.
So 165 and 84, that's 9, 6 is 14, 249 linear feet of 8-foot fence.
All right, I'll
If
second
that
that.
adds up, then
I trust you. All right,
The variance is for the height of the fence, not for the length of the fence. So I wouldn't put 249, you might be off, what if it's,
Right.
Right.
you know, so skip
Right, no, that
that.
was just for reference, that's the
Okay,
two.
well, don't make it part of the motion. The motion is
the motion is
2-foot variance.
2 foot
A
on
2-foot
south
variance
and
to
on the
allow,
west.
to allow an 8-foot tall fence on
Could
the
I-
south and west property.
Could I come up and ask one more question? Or
Absolutely,
Can I ask it from
please.
here?
Yes.
So there will be a gate coming off the corner of the garage. There's about 4 to 5 feet between the garage and the west side of the fence. I guess just confirming what would be allowable there, if we should match the 8-foot fence with the 8-foot gate there. It's gonna be pretty much only a gate in that section that we could fit in that about 5 feet, I would say.
so you basically just want, like, as you're looking at your house, both sides are 8 feet tall.
Yeah, yeah.
I wouldn't care.
Well,
I don't have any issue with that.
Well, yeah, that's still that's not in the front yard, right?
No.
It's either in the side or rear yard, and, you know, so.
It is facing north, so I just wanted to make sure with the verbiage
Yeah,
that
I mean.
But it's gonna come off
So,
one of those 2 sides we just talked
it'll
about.
come up the
Gonna
west,
come off the
yeah.
west side.
There you go.
so the variance would include
Part of the north.
the little section from the garage
Yeah,
to
the
the
gate,
right.
west property line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I meant my.
Anything else you
motion
need?
for
I mean,
that.
you gotta
No, I think that's
go with it. All right,
Can we get a second on that?
We have a motion.
we haven't yet gotten that, I haven't asked for it. So we've got a motion on the floor to approve this as an 8-foot fence on the west and on the south side.
I'll second that.
And the north.
And a portion of the north,
And a portion of the north on the west side of the garage.
Okay,
just for clarification.
yes,
Just for clarification. There we go. Seconded on that?
yes.
Mary seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Congratulations. Sorry that took so long.
No,
Glad we got
Thank you for your time.
No problem. All right. One thing that's also on our agenda tonight is there is apparently a way for us to attend these meetings virtually.
I've been doing that.
Only under extraordinary circumstances.
Tell us what that is and then. If you want it, I've got a copy of it if you need it.
I have it here somewhere. So it's pretty self-explanatory. If due to extraordinary circumstances, you can't attend a meeting which includes disability, illness, caregiving responsibilities, or any other significant or unexpected factor or event which precludes your physical attendance. So in other words, you go on vacation, no, that's not an extraordinary, or you just don't, you feel like staying home, no, that's not it. If you're sick or disabled, that's an extraordinary circumstance.
The only poor question I have is we have two active alternates. So can we pull those in at any time or, and what would happen if somebody called up and said, whatever, one of the excuses?
Well, that depends on the board member. If one of you 5 regular board members, if someone is ill or disabled or whatever, and you want to do it by video conference, and if instead of doing that, you want to, talk to the 2 alternates, Peter David, say, hey, can you show up in my stead? Then as long as you got a quorum, then you don't have to do the video conference.
Right.
But it's sort of up to the individual that wants to do it by video conference.
Fair enough. I understand it. Anybody got any questions?
Because you have to notify the chairperson, unless it's, the chairperson is seeking to appear by video conference, and then, was there a deputy chair of this board?
There is not a vice chair or a deputy chair. There are on many of the boards around the town.
Well, you guys should appoint someone as a deputy, because in that case, you notify that deputy and the village clerk in advance that, hey, I can't show up, and this is the reason why.
Questions for that?
Is this a New York thing? New York State?
Yeah, about a year and a half ago, New York State amended the open meetings law to allow it.
This is when you're supposed to say it's great to live in New York State, isn't it? All right, we've got that. You guys know that. What I'm gonna do is I'll walk away here and we'll take this appointing deputy or executive, something like that, and see if the board of trustees, because I think they have to do it. I'm not so sure that we can do it. So, all right, let's go. The other thing that we had on our agenda was 2 items. We were gonna talk briefly about sheds and briefly about driveways. Anybody can start off with what you've got. You have some information there. And what I will do is I will start it off with driveways myself. We've got a fair number of these things coming before us. When they come before us, they're all over the place. I don't understand, and I've been walking around this. I don't understand, number one, what an apron is, although I know it's that area between the street and the sidewalk, but if there is no sidewalk, is the whole driveway, the apron. I know that if there's a one-car garage, we can have a 12-foot wide driveway, but if we can add 12 feet to that for additional parking, but you can add just 12. If you have a 2-car garage, you can add 12 again, up to, and it doesn't say a maximum, but that's what I view it as, is to a maximum of 36 feet at that point, so you can have this extra driveway. And if you're over there, what if I've only got 10 feet between my driveway and my property line? Does that mean I can only have 8? Does that mean I can only have 9? Does that mean, I don't know what it means, but that's all the things. And what happens, and this all comes into my mind when we've got a 2-car garage that I can look at, and the driveway comes right straight off the 2-car garage, and I got 2 lanes in my driveway. What happens if it's turned the other way, and we've had that, and now the garage is actually turned on its side, and they want to expand it? There is no garage door there. Can they expand it? I don't know. Or is that just a variance that we're going to allow parking, what I would call, in the front yard at that point? And by the way, we don't make changes in the law. What we do is we say to the trustees, this is one of the things that we've seen. We would, you guys have now seen it. See if you want us to just continue to deal with it as variances, or do you want to change the code? And they would have to do that. And the other one has to do with the sheds, and we can only deal with one at a time. So why don't we stop right there and leave this on the driveways. Thoughts? Has anybody researched it? Has anybody done anything?
No, I will admit that I did not do any research on this.
It's all right. There's not a lot out there. You can go around, and I tried it. You go to Fairport, you go to Brockport, you go to Robincourt, you go to Barrington, you go every place except Penfield, because we got an expert from Penfield. But, yeah, there's a fair amount out there.
I looked around and noticed many houses that have driveways in front of their house. When they have their driveway redone, yeah.
Well, or a U-shaped driveway in the front of the house.
Right, which is not allowed, I don't think, and neither is extra asphalt in front of the, well, that's a question.
If there's not a garage door there, you're not supposed to put asphalt there.
But what would the difference be between the asphalt and someone paving it for a sitting area?
Well put.
So, I mean, it's in the code that you can't park in front of your house. Your driveway can't be in front of the house, so,
But if the garage is there, and the garage is turned, so it's now, you come up and you turn in. Is that in front of the house then, if you're over in front of the garage?
You're saying a side load driveway, or
Yeah.
side load garage?
Yeah.
Well, in that case, I wouldn't think that would be considered in front of the house if you're driving up your driveway into a side load garage and you park in front of the house.
See, I would have thought it was,
Yeah.
because there is no garage door there.
There's no garage
and
door
that's
there.
how I define the driveway.
Right.
But I could be wrong.
Let's do sheds.
Okay, sheds are kind of easy. If you've driven down the road, take a look, particularly when you drive south on 250. Take a look at the sheds that are up for sale out by the road.
Oh, yeah.
Now, we have a requirement that says 192 square feet. All right? Or 120 if you're in a different zone. But it says or 1%.
1%.
But that 1% is a little bit farther, because it says 1% or 192, whichever one is less. So what they're saying is smaller. 192 feet is 12 by 16. Most of the sheds I see on the road, and a lot of what comes before us, is more than 12 by 15.
12 by 16 and 16 by
12 by 16.
16 by 20 is that's a garage. I mean, that's a small garage.
To me, it looks like that, but
I would agree, and I think why we came up with 192 was for 5 years there, we were coming in with everybody wanting 12 by 16 sheds. So then we're like,
so
all right,
you said, okay, we'll
so
do
is
it.
this the norm size shed? And then we should probably just say, all right, if everybody's gonna get a 12 by 16, then that way we have a base to start from. And then that's when I threw in the 1% for the lot size, because
You don't want,
if you got
But
a
it's
5 acre lot, there's a couple 5 acre lots.
But it's whichever one is less.
Well,
And it's 1% or 192, or
Right.
whichever one is
right,
less.
right.
So if you got a 5 acre lot, 192 is gonna be less.
Well, right.
So do we want to recommend, do we like what we've got? Do we wanna deal with it? Or do we, because we're gonna deal with it anyhow, even if we changed it to 220 square feet, somebody will come in with 225 or 250.
Well,
which is
agree with-
somebody's going to ask for more.
They're always gonna be, and I agree with Peter that you start getting to a 10 by 20, that's a garage. It's not.
Looks like a garage.
Right. That's my personal opinion.
What's the town code? I looked at it. I think that's
Town is 196.
196.
So this is like the speed limit.
Yeah.
If the speed limit's 55, people go 60. If the speed limit's 65, people go 75. So if you keep raising this, they're gonna get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. I would rather deal with it, even though it's sometimes annoying.
Yeah.
But I'd rather deal with each one individually. My concern about this is not what we have written right now. My concern, and especially it deals with it overlaps to the driveways, is that when you have people come in and say, well, everybody has this already, and then when you drive down that street and you see that that is not the case, that is not the case, or if it is the case, which of those residents got a variance and which one didn't? And even if you find somebody who broke the variance law, what do you do about that? Go in there with a jackhammer and get it taken up, or have them do that? Or do you penalize them financially for every square foot they went over? I mean, this becomes a bit of a problem, because there are people who will do it and ask for forgiveness after. It's like a kid in class. I've had many of those kids.
I didn't mean to do that, but I did.
Say something about that test paper visit. I could just see all the answers.
Well,
so my point is that there's a lot of issues that get involved in here, and I don't know which ones we have. I have very little control over them, and I don't know when you step in and do that. And do we want everybody stepping in and doing that? Or
Well, when do we want to do that? Because
That's a great
we've
question.
got 192 or 1%, whichever is less.
I think
But when
that's-
something, and if you, and I don't know who looked at the information that was nice enough to come our way. How many denials did you see in there? None. And, I've gone
Oh,
as
yeah,
far
there was,
as,
there was one.
There was
I
one.
denied. We denied.
Yeah.
That was for a second shed though.
Right.
Yes.
all right,
Remember that. Yeah.
but there's very few,
Recently?
and they're coming into us, and, is this what the trustees want? Do they want us to continue to be a check on that and make sure it's reasonable? Or can you put a 200 square foot shed in your backyard, Pete?
In my backyard?
Yes, it'd take up the whole thing, you
Take
wouldn't
the
have to
whole
mow
thing.
as much.
Yep,
Yeah, but
yeah.
when you get a 60 by 180 foot lot,
Right.
I mean, you've got like a second apartment back there, then.
It does seem like it.
I think,
I'd
the
rather
zoning-
deal with it on a case by case basis and just keep it the way it is.
Every application should be treated on its own merits.
Because then maybe they might say, you know what, I don't wanna go to the zoning board, I'll just do my 192 or whatever I'm allowed, and that's good for me.
Okay, I'll give us one, and then we can probably break here, but, on Kircher, we approved a second driveway on that particular house. You know why we did that? Because the garage above it was turned into an apartment in the back, separated from the house. And I was thinking to myself, since when do we allow a second apartment to be built like that without any permit?
Pre-existing non-conforming.
Pardon me?
Pre-existing non-conforming.
Well, but
That was
that
built
that was my personal
before 1950.
issue with that. And what we did is we went ahead and we approved that. And that's all right, that's within our rights. But the question would be is, you know, and somebody put it out here, do we want to say to the trustees, hey, you know, you might want to, you need to be at least aware of this occurring, or change things. We can't change it. All we can do is say yes or no when
Right.
things come into us. And I looked hard to find codes in other towns that were significantly different from ours.
They're not.
They're not.
Well, the town basically doesn't even regulate driveways. If you look at the definition of a driveway under the town of Webster
Mhm.
zoning ordinance, it just says, a place that, an area that goes from a private street or a road, you know, to a structure.
Yep.
That's it.
Wow.
So what that tells me, and if I think about that in my own mind, there can be no expansion to that. Because it defines what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think with driveways though, you're very limited again by the lot size, where the driveway is in relationship to the property line. So, I mean, I'm looking at the postage stamps, and they, you know, they're 60 foot wide.
Yeah.
They're usually one car garage, which I lived in one, and it was a pain in the ass. You know, my wife would get the garage because it's snowing, and then she would leave before me, and anyways. So I get the headache and all that, but at the same point, I would be okay with maybe upsizing it to allow for easier parking so you could get by side, but then you're limited by the property line, but then you also got the code that says no parking in front of your house, so it's in a tough situation.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think you gotta keep that as a check every time somebody wants to widen the driveway. Yeah.
And the information that Karen's been giving us for each application, that's helpful.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can see how many on the street have done this.
Absolutely.
Okay, other thoughts or things? Do we have anything coming up for November?
It's a possibility. They have not submitted the paperwork yet, but
That'll be the week before Thanksgiving.
well, hopefully they don't submit.
I might not be here for that one.
Okay,
Minutes, approve minutes.
so before we leave, go ahead.
November 21st.
Okay, so before we leave, anybody had a chance to take a look through the meeting minutes and have any comments or any corrections or addendums to it, or would we like to approve them as they are?
I make a motion to approve them as they are.
We have a motion on the table to approve the meeting minutes, seconded,
Second.
Seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right, 21st, thank you.